You are listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragonball and Video Game Podcast.
Welcome back, guys. I am your host, Studio MacGyver, and this is Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. On today's show, we are going to discuss Nintendo 64 and some of my favorite games on that console. It was a beautiful system. Also, we're going to break down, I'm going to break down 3 of my favorite characters. I discussed it earlier in another podcast, but in this episode, I'm going to break them down, give you a little history on each one, maybe some things you guys didn't know. So let's begin the show. First, I'm going to start off with a little news today. Got some news. A lot of Xbox One fans will probably not like if you heard of this game. Scalebound was supposed to be an action RPG game. It looked really promising. I don't own an Xbox One, but if I did, this was a sure buy for me. This would probably be one of the first games. This and Killer Instinct would probably be 2 of the first games that I actually would be purchasing. Game actually looked pretty cool, but it got canceled. Not delayed, not set back, completely canceled, dead. Finito, ciao bella, no longer living. So I guess Xbox One fans can thank Microsoft and the developers for this one. I could get into a rant on this, but I'm going to leave this one alone for right now. But yeah, sad news for Xbox One owners. Sad news for anybody anticipating playing this game. I have to say I feel your pain on this one. So that is it for that. Now let's get into the Nintendo 64. I love this system. Let me just start off by saying Nintendo is a beautiful company. Okay. They haven't made the best decisions as of late as far as their consoles especially are concerned, but they are responsible for giving me, and I'm pretty sure lots of other listeners out there, hours and hours and hours of fun. A lot of you guys probably don't even know too much about it, depending on your age. With social media right now today, I mean, anything is accessible. If you get curious enough, you can get out there and you can find it. But I remember the Nintendo 64 first came out, man, and the big sell on it was like, okay, everything else out there is 32-bit, and it was on a disc. This is on a cartridge, and it's 64-bit, so it's twice the power and twice as fast loading time wise. Really, basically, one thing I did love about the cartridge is that it had little to no load time. I mean, that's one thing I love. I still love the cartridge. I still like the way it feels. I don't know. I can't explain it. I do like the cartridge. Some of you guys may feel what I'm saying. Some may not, but it's hard to explain, but I like it though. So, but as far as the games are concerned, let's get into that. One of my all-time favorite games, a lot of people are probably going to say GoldenEye 007. Nope. Mine was actually WCW NWO Revenge. Yes, it was a wrestling game. Oh man, when I think about that game, I get goosebumps. Classic game. That was back in the day when the NWO was doing their thing in the wrestling world, when I used to actually watch wrestling as a young teen. I don't keep up with it anymore. Haven't for years, but I do enjoy a good wrestling game, even today. As far as the Nintendo 64 is concerned, that game is a classic. And then after that came WrestleMania 2000, which was also dope. And then you had Then you had WWF No Mercy. Now that game did some things that if they could have did that in the WCW first game, it would have been epic. The reason why that is one of my favorite games is because, I was a WCW guy. Some people WWF or whatever. And as far as the roster was concerned, at that point in time, it had the best roster like ever. You had Mr. Perfect. You had Macho Man. You had Bret the Hitman Hart. All these guys came from the WWF/WWE. And they were there in WCW. Plus, they just had cool characters like La Parka, Chris Jericho, Sting. We can't neglect him. I mean, DDP, the Outsiders, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. And I can go on and on and on. It was dope. I remember sinking hours and hours and hours into this game. I remember me and two of my best friends. It was just something that happened. It was like some fluke incident where basically we all three broke up with our girlfriends right around the same time. And we were spending a night at each other's house, and we were all kind of heartbroken, and you know how kids get when they break up with, a girlfriend or whatever. So we had the Nintendo 64. And so we spent, almost 2 days straight that weekend playing until our hands were numb, playing WCW NWO's Revenge. And we had the time of our fucking lives. It took our minds off of that. And I remember the whole time we were playing, we weren't really thinking about our girlfriends at the time. It was only when we stopped playing when we finally realized, damn, it hurts. It fucking hurts. But I had so many memories, so many good memories with this game. It helped us get over our little debacle we thought we were going through at that time. And, that's what video games are there for, I think. A lot of people use it for an escape and, to get your mind off of other things that are going on in your life. And I think that's why it continued to grow and is so popular now, and it's not going to stop. My next game on the Nintendo 64 that I have to talk about a little bit is Super Mario 64. Classic. We all know that Mario is the Mickey Mouse of the Nintendo franchise. So what better way to put him on a 3D game where he can run wild and pretty much do what the hell he wanted to do in 3D. Dope game. Just had to mention it. The Nintendo 64 did have some other titles. Smash Brothers was another one. It was a great system for its time. 007, Perfect Dark. Those other wrestling game franchises I talked about was on there. Killer Instinct, I think. Was Killer Instinct on that? Don't let me get to lying about that one. But the games previously mentioned, for sure. It was a nice system. I will always have a soft spot in my heart for the Nintendo 64. Okay, now let's get into some Dragon Ball, shall we? I'm going to break down my 3 favorite characters: Vegeta, Tien Shinhan, and Frieza. I'm going to start with Tien. Now, I'm saying this assuming that everybody listening to this has not seen Dragon Ball, because hey, let's keep it real. A lot of us probably haven't. Most of us probably came into the series, I know I did at least, on Dragon Ball Z. It's a lot more accessible as far as the other episodes and the others, like Dragon Ball and GT and all that, online now, of course. But back then it wasn't. All I could get my hands on was Dragon Ball Z. That was it. So I had to just start from there. If I had a choice, best believe I would have followed up and started from ground zero. But with that being said, Tien became one of my favorites early on when I started watching Dragon Ball Z. Like I said in my earlier podcast, I just thought he was a cool character. He was a really serious character. And, I just liked his technique, a lot of his moves and stuff. So that's what drew me to him at first. But it wasn't until I actually started watching Dragon Ball when I really fell in love with this character, the history behind it. And see, that's another thing. A lot of people don't realize if you don't watch Dragon Ball, you're missing out on a shitload of history and character development. Because the reason why these characters are who they are, a lot of it has to do with what happened in Dragon Ball. Tien was an evil person at first. What would you say if I told you that Tien had his own saga? I'm sure we all know about the Vegeta saga. We know about the Frieza saga. We know about the Cell saga and the Buu saga, right? Okay. What if I told you Tien had his own saga as well? The Tien Shinhan saga. Right. He did. It was in Dragon Ball. He was like, at that time, the main bad guy, which it completely blew my mind. I was like, what? They actually shed some shine on my boy, Tien Shinhan? Really? Yeah, in Dragon Ball. Which is really kind of why I get frustrated sometimes when we talk about Tien, because I feel that he could be used in a lot of different ways in the current series. Dragon Ball Super even. I meant Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Z, I'm sorry. But yes, for just the kind of character he was and the stuff he could do in Dragon Ball, I mean, I was like, yo, a lot of that didn't carry over. A lot of those techniques didn't carry over, but let's start there. You ever wonder about that scar on his chest? I used to always wonder, like, yo, I wonder how he got that scar. If you watch Dragon Ball, you find out. I mean, all of those questions, a lot of those questions are answered if you saw Dragon Ball. Even Yamcha, all those guys were bad guys, were Goku's enemy at one point in time. Tien was actually training to become an assassin. Training to become a fucking assassin. Yes. He did some evil, nasty shit to Yamcha. He actually fought Master Roshi. Yes, he fought Master Roshi. He basically made Master Roshi realize, yo, I'm out here getting handled. I need to take a step back, look around me, and get ready to hand over this torch. All these fighters coming up now, it's time for me to hang it up. Tien made him actually realize that. Tien was out there putting in work. He fought Yamcha, and Yamcha got handled. I don't even know any better way to say it, man. I mean, you have to watch the fight to see what I'm talking about. He was just a badass, man. And his techniques were off the chain. I mean, the solar flare, that move is Tien's. That was his technique, for those who don't know. And there's probably some that don't. Yes, that is one of the, besides the Kamehameha wave, that is the other move that is like basically a cornerstone of Dragon Ball. When you think Dragon Ball Z, I think Kamehameha, I think Solar Flare. Those are the techniques that pop right in my head. Yes, Tien's responsible for the Solar Flare. Also, there's another cool ass technique called the multi-form technique. Basically, when you split your body into 3 or 4 other entities and you become a group of people, that was also Tien Shinhan's as well. He's a bad boy, man. He's a bad fucking boy, and that's why I love him. And hopefully in the next arc, which is about to touch down. The next tournament arc where he's actually a part of. So is Krillin. So is some other guys. Not Yamcha. But hopefully we get to see some love sprinkled on my man. Hopefully we get to see something. I'm looking forward to this arc. Can't wait to talk about it. Okay. Next in line is the one you love to hate. Nah, I'm just playing. Vegeta. Vegeta, Vegeta, Vegeta. Oh, let me count the ways. This guy is amazing. I fell in love with Vegeta for the first time. I want to say it really wasn't until the Frieza arc when he fought Raccoon. Yeah. Actually, no. Let me take that back. When he first got to Planet Namek and he fought Zarbon. That's right. That's when I fell in love with Vegeta. I first realized that, oh, okay, they're taking this character to a whole nother place. It wasn't over when Goku beat him and he flew off in the space shuttle and said he would be back. It was a continuation, and him eventually ending up on our side, on the good guy side, was a trip. It was a transition that I would have never guessed. I would have never saw coming. I thought maybe he'd be like Goku's rival, but always trying to kill him and destroy him or whatnot, but that wasn't the case. So his transition from who he was to who he is now, and I'm not even talking about all the way into Super, I'm just talking about in Dragon Ball Z, was a beautiful thing to watch. He's still a dickhead. He's still an asshole to the certain degree, but that's him. That's Vegeta. You know what I mean? But he does love his family. Believe it or not, he does love Goku. And if you really watch the show, you see it. There's points and there's certain situations where you can see it, and that's part of why I love him so much. And he's just a badass character, yo. He's the Prince of all Saiyans, man. Come on, the Prince of all Saiyans. I still think he's going to eventually surpass Goku. I'm waiting for him to maybe surpass everybody. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. This next arc is going to show us some stuff, and I haven't been more excited for an arc in a long time. This one here is, I'm really anticipating this one for a lot of different reasons. And that's Vegeta. Now, we're going to hit the tyrant, the ruler of the entire universe, or so we thought he was. We're going to talk about Frieza. Frieza is really that alien you love to hate. But I love him. I fucking love him. Frieza is the shit. And let me tell you why he's the shit. Okay? When I was watching Dragon Ball Z, some of the shit he did, I couldn't believe what I was watching. That made me love the series that much more. Really, when I saw the uncut edition, I mean, they kept so much shit from us. Toonami did from when the uncut version came out. I was like, what? I don't remember this. I didn't see that. What the fuck, man? But I loved it. The uncut is my favorite. I love the uncut. But anyway, Frieza, when he stuck Krillin in the body with his horn and started playing with him, jumping up and down, moving his head around, jabbing the horn deeper into Krillin's bloody body, I was like, I lost my shit. I was like, what the man, this dude is crazy. Frieza is evil as fuck. Yeah, I fell in love with Frieza and I was like, yo, dude is a trip. Dude is evil as hell, man. I don't care what the fuck. And then, to make matters worse, he killed Dende. When he killed Dende, man, I was like, I'm sold. I'm completely sold, man. Frieza's just a bad motherfucker, man. He is. He's a bad boy. And when I saw when I saw the Resurrection of F movie, when he hit his golden form or whatever, imagine what would have happened if he did train or if he even joined the squad. Like, he would probably be stronger than everybody. I mean, he's so strong in his own right. He could have really potentially been something completely out of this world. He probably could have took out Beerus. He could have took out, the Omni King. Who fucking knows if he would have trained? He had never trained a day in his life up until he fought Goku. Not one day. That was just natural God-given strength and ability that he had. Scary when you think about it. And then the battle he had with Goku on Planet Namek was just epic. That whole saga was just so much shit happened in that saga. So many important things. Goku going Super Saiyan, that's probably the number one moment in Dragon Ball Z history, probably ranked up there in the top, easily the top 3 moments. Because think about how important that character has to be for Goku to actually get over and go Super Saiyan. He couldn't just, you had the character was picked perfectly. It had to be somebody powerful. It had to be somebody treacherous, somebody evil to do something so cold, so down and dirty to pull that out of Goku to the point where he was so pissed and he was so just upset and distraught and angry that he actually transformed. That scene, that whole thing there is one of the greatest moments in anime history, in my opinion. Yeah, I said it. So that's why Frieza is, number one, he's an important character anyway, because like I said, without him, there would be no Super Saiyan. Who knows when Goku would have turned Super Saiyan? You know what I mean? If he wasn't as treacherous as he was and did the things that he did. On that note, that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 4 of Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. I hope you guys join me again. I'll be back next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. See you next time.